Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Alif Aidil bin Abdul Shukur. My metric number is 273838 and I will be presenting about our group's company, which is Waste Management Incorporation. As an introduction, I will be talking about the background of the company. Waste Management Incorporation was first founded in 1968 in North America. Their founder intended to help their society by appropriately managing the waste generated by a fast-growing population that was eating an increasing number of convenience products. Their first HQ was in Houston's First City Tower. Waste Management Incorporation had grown to become the world's largest waste management company by 1982, as they have 45,000 of employees with revenue of more than $1 billion. Until now, the company is still leading the waste management companies from all over the world by having like 26,000 collection and transfer vehicles to run their business operation. From the year the company was built until now, Waste Management Incorporation has served almost 21 million residential, industrial, municipal, and customers from private.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Naura Nadira. My metric number is 272905. I will continue presenting about the independence auditor rules. Every auditor's duty is to identify whether an entity financial reporting has been done according to the requirements of the law. Auditors cannot issue an absolute assurance as the lawfulness and reliability of an entity's financial reporting. However, when it is subsequently discovered that the financial reporting was incorrect and that fraud has occurred, auditors are often to blame and sued for enormous amount of money for failing to detect material anomalies in the financial report. These actions are based on the fact that auditors have a duty to exercise reasonable care and skill in the performance on their duty and through the failure to act as such and cause financial harm to the clients or third party. The fact that auditors are only required by law to exercise a reasonable care and skill and perform an audit according to the standards of reasonable auditor and not the most meticulous one. The auditor's duty of reasonable care and skill does not entail the duty to detect fraud. Thus, Ade Edison was not the only one that sought of auditing firm to the stakeholders of Waste Management Incorporations. James Coyne and Thomas Howe, who was the CFO and CEO of Waste Management Incorporations, also were trained at Ade Edison as auditor. The auditor of Waste Management Incorporations at that time was Ade Edison's LLP Majorly and Robert Kusenda, the regional audit director. Ade Edison's was one of the biggest accounting firms of its names. Generally, the firms auditing the company has not snapped a liability in case a fraud is ruled out in the company. However, this case stood as an exception and set a precedent as well. The Security Exchange Commission's informers Chief Richard Walker called out the important role played by the auditors as gatekeepers of the capital market. Thereby, it becomes imperative that they must be left with the responsibility when a company succeeds in defrauding the market. As a punitive measurement, the auditors were barred from doing any accounting work for public companies for 5 years. The SEC alleged that the auditors were involved in professional misconduct during the time of the misconduct. The firm was given an option of settlement without going for the proceeding. Ade Edison was asked to pay $220 million as the penalty for their questionable accounting of waste management for years. As evident, SEC presented the documents showing how Ade Edison's and Waste Management Incorporations have been closed acts which means the necessary conditions that the auditor should be independent and free from any interest in the company. Other Edisons provide non-auditing service to Waste Management Incorporation as well, such as consulting service. The yearly financial report of Waste Management Incorporation shows that it paid additional fees to other Edison for special work, which will split into two heads. Firstly, the amount of $7.5 million for their accounting service and another $17.8 million for non-audit consultation fee. Other Edison also prepared proposed adjusting journal entries for the apparent misstatements to correct the improper accounting practice. It was alleged that Arthur Andersen found about the malpractice of waste management and even asked it to mend its way. However, it did approve the financial statement of waste management incorporations, thereby joining hands in the fraud. In this matter, the auditor was also questioned and liability was laid on them as well. Next, facts that arises during the audit. Waste Management Incorporation generalized several fraudulent accounting transactions to eliminate and defer expense for the current period. By decreasing the expense on the income statement, the firm's profit is able to record higher profit. Firstly, they established inflated environmental reserve. By inflating the reserve in connection with acquisitions on the balance sheets, Waste Management was able to successfully avoid recording unrelated operating expense. This method is similar to booking an allowance for doubtful accounts and changing the estimates each period to reduce the overall reserve instead of expensing it out, keeping the expense off the income statement. Secondly, the firm avoided the depreciation expense. Waste Management had a number of garbage trucks used in operations. To depreciate this truck, the company management needed to assign a salvage value to each truck and the truck's useful life. Assigning value to this is done by every company, but the estimated value must be reasonable. In the case of Waste Management, the estimates for the salvage value were inflated and the useful life were extended. This lowered the depreciation expense taken for these assets each period, this raising the net income. For any asset that did not have a salvage value, an arbitrary value was assigned to lower the depreciation expense. In addition, fraudulent accounting reserve also arise during the audit. The company also improperly capitalized a variety of expense. This allowed the company to avoid expensing the amounts in full in the period they were used and deferring the amount to the balance sheet as asset. For example, if company purchased small equipment that was an immaterial amount to the company, they should expense that equipment. By capitalizing the equipment, they are able to create an asset on the balance sheets that they can expend in small amounts over time instead of all at once. The company also failed to establish enough reserve to pay for income taxes and other expense.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Nadia Atira binti Muhammad Noor, metric number 272616. Based on the evidence proof according to the waste management case above, it is in line with a meaning of familiarity trait, which is the trait that a professional accountant may be too sympathetic to their interest or to supporting their work due to a long or close relationship with a client. To the owners of Waste Management Incorporated, Arthur Andersen was more than just an accounting firm. This is because Arthur Andersen was the source of many of Waste Management Incorporated top executives. For example, the CFO of Waste Management Incorporated, James Going, received his training as an auditor at Arthur Andersen. Next, the CEO of Waste Management Incorporated, Thomas Howe, who was qualified as an accountant at Arthur Andersen, has been a partner there for 30 years and was the director of Arthur Andersen's Waste Management Audit Division. Last but not least, Bruce Tobexon also, who was Vice President of Accounting for Waste Management Incorporated, was previously become Audit Director for that company. There was a sense of pressure on all the accountants and audit members in Arthur Andersen due to close relationship with Waste Management Incorporated. Therefore, the audit process also was hampered by this friendly relationship between the two companies. The next trait is self-interest trait. Self-interest trait is the trait of a financial or other interest that improperly influencing the professional accountant's decision. For example, in this case, the shareholder of that company bribed the audit firm in order for the fraudsters to hide their tracks. Therefore, the audit firm will be paid extra payments as special work outside of the original agreement. For every trade, there must have a safeguard that have been implemented to protect the auditors. Based on the threat that appear in Waste Management Incorporated, assigning an uncertainty with adequate expertise in relation to the individual that has joined the insurance client is one of the safeguards that should be used. Furthermore, getting a chartered accountant who is not a member of the insurance team to check the work done and provide advice when required is indeed a good idea. Routine senior insurance team personnel also one of the safeguards that can reduce the threat that will arise. Thus, by implementing this safeguard, the threat may be eliminated or may be reduced to an acceptable level. That's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Shazwa Aiman and today I will present about the financial report of waste management, which is the first one about the need to look before and after 1996, effect the fraud towards financial and the causal relationship between audit firm and company. Okay, first in 1990s, waste management need to through the slow growth stage of the business circle. So the management need to work harder to maintain the company for always be in a great performance in order to convince the investor to stay in the company. But the management fail to do so. Therefore, they manipulate the financial statement and do the fraud. The fraud was well concealed and no one noticed the incident until 1997 when board of the director hired Lemai to become new CEO, and he suddenly resigned after 3 months. 3 months after he started an investigation into account irregularities, and this become a question mark between the stakeholder and board of the director. Then they decided to revive their financial report from 1990s until 1997, and this made SEC become aware, and they also opened an investigation and found the fraud. Okay, next is about the effect the fraud towards financial report. The revenue increased drastically from 1992, and it is because of the fraud. They manipulate with reduce their expenses, and this will show that their revenue is higher. For example, they did not record depreciation, decreased value in landfill, cost of unsuccessful project, and other expenses. They also manipulate their reserve so that the excess reserve could be used to avoid recording unrelated operating expenses. And some of the assets also were improperly capitalized. So all these issues can affect their net income, which is more higher. Furthermore, their stock price also climbed from $71.1 in 1992 into $55 in 1998. Next is causal relationship make this fraud more difficult to trace, which is first one is waste management bribe the audit firm, and furthermore the top management of waste management was trained at Arthur Andersen as an auditor and a partner for 30 years. Bruce D. Robertson is Arthur Andersen head of audit division for the waste management account, who is also the vice president of finance at the waste management. This comfortable relationship between both companies also have created conflicts in the auditing process of the waste management.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Atin Syafiqah binti Rizalman, metric number 272672. Okay, let's proceed to the audit and non-audit work performed. Based on the annual report, Andersen's corporate audit fee remained capped over the 7 years period. Besides, they also bill $11.8 million to Waste Management Corporate Headquarters for other fees related to tax, attest work unrelated to financial statement audit or review, regulatory issues, and also consulting services. Moreover, there is an additional $6 million for the non-audit fees that are being billed for Waste Management Corporate Headquarters. Based on the Auditing Practice Board (APB) ethical standard, there are several auditing requirements that need to be practiced by an auditor to fulfill the evolving demand for the user of financial statement and maintain public confidence throughout the auditing process. Under APB Ethical Standard 1, an auditor should conduct the ethical standards such as objectivity, integrity, and independent while auditing the company's financial statement. For the objectivity, it is a basis of the code that it issues by the IFAC Ethic for Professional Accountant as the general principle in handling auditor's work. It need to be conducted by an auditor to obtain reasonable assurance and provide a true picture of the financial statement. An auditor need to not compromise professionals or commercial judgment that include bias and conflict of interest. It is important to examine whether their financial statement is free from material misstatement as a whole or not. Integrity is the root for the code of ethics. It requires the auditor to have an audit to adhere to high standards of behavior, be honest and straightforward. It also requires the auditor to be transparent and truthful in the course of their work and in their public confidence. But an ethic breach was breached by Waste Management when one of the Big Five firms for the audit, Arthur Andersen, accepted the bribes and provided with the unqualified opinion in the audit report for that company in order to conceal the fraud and wrote off all the accounting error over time.
For conclusion and recommendation, we can conclude that auditors are required to perform the audit procedures as stated in light of the risk of fraud, because auditors are responsible to maintain an attitude of professional skepticism by recognizing the material misstatement due to fraud with integrity and honesty. In short, auditors must obtain the reasonable assurance that the statements are free from any material misstatement, whether caused by error or fraud. For recommendation, to perform a successful audit, an auditor must be independent, unbiased, and following the legal procedures and steps established by International Standards and Auditing or ISA in order to prevent any conflict of interest. For that reason, it shows that each profession needs to have and follow the set of legal principles and code of ethics that guide a professional to discipline and perform the duty successfully. That's all for our group.